Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It's Thursday, July the 17th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local share market is set to bounce back from yesterday's steep losses, with ASX futures up around 0.6%. It was a volatile session on global markets overnight, with European stocks mostly lower. The US dollar fell along with Treasury yields on concern that President Trump was seeking to remove Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. That saw the S&P 500 and Nasdaq fall more than 1%, but then recover, with the Nasdaq closing at another record high after the president later said he was highly unlikely to fire him. This distracted from US earnings results, Goldman Sachs climbing after notching a 22% earnings surge, while Bank of America and Morgan Stanley fell despite posting higher profits. Johnson & Johnson shares soared after halving in expectations for costs this year related to new tariffs and raising its full-year sales and profit forecast. United Airlines forecast a lower than expected profit in the quarter through to September, as worries about rising living costs and an uncertain economic outlook have led to a pullback in discretionary travel spending. Semiconductor stocks were sluggish after news that Nvidia would be allowed to sell its H20 chips in China, which had fueled gains in the previous session. And elsewhere among the Mag 7 stocks, Meta and Amazon fell. And shares in ASML, the world's largest supplier of computer chip making equipment, tumbled after warning that it may not achieve revenue growth in 2026 as chip makers building factories in the US await clarity on the potential impacts of tariffs. Well, President Trump has said he's not planning to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, despite launching a fresh round of criticism against him for not lowering interest rates. Later in the day, Donald Trump confirmed that he'd spoken to lawmakers about firing Powell, saying, "I talked to them about the concept of firing him. I said, 'What do you think?' Almost all of them said I should, but I'm more conservative than they are." Well, US producer prices were slightly softer than expected in June, coming in flat on the previous month for an annual print of 2.3%. And the core rate fell to 2.6% year on year, the lowest since April last year. Gains in goods prices were offset by declines in services, and industrial production in June rose 0.3%, which was more than forecast. And the Federal Reserve's Beige Book of Regional Economic Conditions indicated a slight improvement in sentiment, noting economic activity had increased slightly. Well, US two-year Treasury yields have fallen to 3.88%, the 10-year yield at 4.49%. And the US dollar fell, but then rose off its lows after President Trump denied his plan to fire the Fed chair. The Aussie dollar trading at 65.3 US cents. And Bitcoin has bounced back to be trading just under 120,000 US dollars. Oil prices have eased as US fuel inventory builds, and concerns about wider economic impacts from US tariffs outweighed signs of increasing demand. Brent crude futures slightly lower at $68 a barrel. Copper fell 1%, iron ore rose 1% to $99 a tonne. And gold initially jumped on reports that Jerome Powell would be dismissed, but trimmed gains after the president's denials. Spot gold at around $3,346 an ounce. Locally today, we get jobs data for June, with expectations that the unemployment rate will remain at 4.1%. On the corporate calendar, we're expecting an earnings update from Alcoa, quarterly production reports from Genesis Minerals, Gold Road, Regis Resources, Santos and Yancoal. That is your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.